Hello, everyone. My name is Michaela Smith, and I'm the Communications Director at OneWorld Rowing. And today I'm interviewing ACRA alum Sophia Luwis. So I just have a few quick questions for her. So the first one is the name and current high performance training group that you're training at, or are you just training on your own right now?
So I'm kind of in an in-between. I'm not with an official high performance group, but I am training with a small group of people and a coach, Sean Hall. Right now we're down in Sarasota, or not Sarasota, in Florida for a training trip. And we're sort of between locations in terms of where we're permanently placed. But yeah.
Cool. Okay, so where did you go to college and when did you graduate?
I went to the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia, and I graduated in May of 2020.
Oh, nice. Was your college crew a member of ACRA when you were rowing there?
Yes, we were part of the whole ACRA system. We're a club. So all of our stuff went through the school's rec center. We weren't an official varsity program with the university at all.
Cool. So
Yeah.
what was your typical schedule as a college rower?
Yeah, so my freshman and sophomore year, I kind of just did just the club schedule, which was 5 days a week. Two of those days we'd have morning practices, so we'd all meet at 5 a.m. and we'd all carpool to where we would row, which was like 20 minutes from campus. And then the rest of the days it'd be 5 p.m. Every now and then we'd maybe have a Saturday practice, but that was typically more for like winter training. We never usually went on the water on the weekends. Winter training was a similar schedule. We'd have like maybe 2 days a week that was in the mornings, but more like 6 or 7 a.m. And then the rest of the week it would be at 5 p.m.
So what boat categories did you train and race in during your college years?
Yeah, so I did, again, freshman year, mostly 8s and 4s, the novice 8 and the novice 4.
Mhm.
And then my time in college was sort of like my first year was fully on the novice team, just club rowing, only did the club sport. And then with each year, I sort of did like more and more on my own outside of the club. So I would add in like more workouts or go to a different gym. And that also led me to, I believe it was my junior year, getting my own single. And so then I started doing more races in the single. I'd still hop into like 1 or 2 races with the club in an 8 or a 4, but I started prioritizing my races in the single.
Awesome. So did you end up going to Akron Champs?
Yes. So we went, I think I'm trying to remember the years because like 1 year was COVID, 1 year I couldn't go. My freshman year we went in the novice 4 and we got second in the women's novice 4. That was fun. And then the year after that, I believe I couldn't race the year after that. So I didn't go, or I went that year, but just to support my club. Junior year, I went in the single and I got second in the single. And then senior year was COVID. So yeah.
Were there any other big regattas that you remember going to in college?
Yeah, so ACRA's was always like our biggest one that we'd always focus on, but in the fall we'd have a big one. I think some years when I was racing, 2 years when I was racing, it was Head of the South, which was our big end of the season one. And then 1 year we did Head of the Hooch, which I think my junior year because I raced the single, or senior year. And then in the spring, we would typically have CIRA or Cyrus, however you want to say it, the Southern Intercollegiate Rowing Association. I think that was that one. And then ACRAs. So we would have like the one big one in the fall and then the two big ones in the spring.
So how did ACRA help you prepare for your current high performance rowing?
I mean, that's where I learned how to row. So I wouldn't be doing high performance without that. I do think it was because the trajectory to being like decent or being at least able to move a boat in rowing isn't the same as like gymnastics where you need 10 years. I liked coming from a club system where it wasn't you have to only do your varsity sport in school and you can't do much else outside of it. Now, I chose to make my time in college mostly rowing and school, but the framework of ACRA's being club, definitely being more school first and then rowing, just gave me the freedom to choose to put rowing first and then school, which wasn't the same as all my peers. A lot of people decided to like have more of a social life and more school and then rowing on the side. But I'm somebody that like, as long as I get to choose what I'm doing, then it's fine. But as soon as you tell me I have to do one or the other, then I feel trapped and I'm not happy. So ACRA sort of let me structure my time rowing in college how I wanted to versus having like a needing to show up to practice all the time because they were paying for a scholarship or something. So yeah.
So when did you decide to pursue high performance rowing at like post college?
So I did a little bit like while I was in college, basically trying to get on the U23 national team. I rowed every summer for some club or a U23 selection camp, like with that goal in mind. So there was always kind of this idea of like, I kind of want to do it past college, or I want to see like, can I go beyond the ACRA's level? So I got a taste of that with the U23 selection camp in the summer of 2019, which is the summer before I graduated. And that was really hard. And I spent a lot of that summer like making weight to be lightweight and racing a lot. So I wasn't sure that I wanted to keep doing high performance after senior year. I was like, go back to Dad Vales, which is a race that I did, my club didn't do, but I did my junior year where I also got second. I was like, go back to Dad Vales and go back to ACRA's, 2 races I got second in, see if I can win. And then if I still have like the love for rowing, then maybe look at doing a high performance team somewhere while getting a job. Cause I had been in contact with Mark Grinberg up in Boston prior to that. So I kind of like knew a little bit about the high performance world, mostly coming from that U23 selection camp. So I knew it existed and it was top of mind, but it wasn't until COVID sort of like canceled all options of like my college rowing career. And then even like with jobs and everything being so uncertain, Mark called me or texted me, emailed something early spring of 2020 before I graduated and was like, hey, I don't know if you're still thinking about it, but like if you would like to row past college, you can come here. And I honestly thought I was going to be done rowing, but that got me thinking like, well, I don't know what else I'm doing, so might as well try. And so that kind of got me thinking like a high performance post college, and now we're still doing it.
Yeah. Cool. So how long after you graduated did you actually start rowing high performance?
Immediately. Yeah. Like, so I graduated in May knowing that at some point that summer I was going to try to get up to Boston to row with that group. And it was still in the middle of COVID. So like moving was really weird, difficult. Going to a different state, traveling was weird. Riverside wasn't like technically taking new members because of COVID, but Mark kind of put it out there like if I could get myself to Boston, we'd figure out where to put my boat. So I moved there. We drove up on my birthday, which was August 2nd, for anybody that's wondering. So I graduated, had like a month to just be with family. I think we actually were able to go on a trip, and then I started right away.
Cool. What is your typical schedule as a high performance rower?
Yeah, so I've been with a couple different like high performance groups at this point, but generally speaking, there are 7 days in a week. I'm thinking about the math right now. It's about 12 practices, depending on which coach you're with, what time of the season, but like a safe number is 11 to 13 practices a week. So 2 days typically, again, depending on the time of the year, depending on what body of water, honestly, that we're at and who, like, if we're trying to avoid college crews, we could be launching at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., or even 8 a.m. But it's usually a morning practice. That's when we're in a build phase of the season, long, steady state row, pretty boring. Everybody kind of does the same thing. That's probably like 4 days a week. And then again, changes 2 to 3 days a week. You'll do like more piecework also in the morning, like AT or some race prep stuff, something. I found that a lot of high performance groups choose to make the afternoon sessions like cross trains or on your own, just because a lot of people having jobs and work schedules, it's easier to get everybody at the same place in the morning and a lot harder at the afternoon. So typically those are like also just low level or low effort, well, not low effort, but longer, slower, steady states of some variety, rowing, biking, running. I've been on programs that don't take Wednesday afternoons off, and I've been on programs that do take Wednesday afternoon off. I love a midweek afternoon off. And then usually we'll do like 2 lifts per week. So on a Monday or Thursday, a Tuesday or Thursday. And again, some high performance groups will do 3 days, 1 day. But generally, you're doing something every morning, every afternoon, some lifting, maybe an afternoon off.
Wow. So what is your plan for this year? And do you have any like target boat categories?
So for this year, my goal is to put together and win and race the lightweight women's quad. I have my training partner that I've been training with for like the last year. We're both committed to this project of making the lightweight quad, because just based on who's rowing right now, it seems like the lightweight double with Molly Reckford and Michelle Shesher they're a really solid boat coming off of Tokyo. So we're like, we'll probably win that. And then there's the single and the light pair are really interesting boats for sure. But I think in terms of which of those boats could we put together, actually go to Worlds and medal, the quad is the most likely. And then also you get all those people together training, which sets you up in theory really well for the next like year and a half to year to put together a double for the next Olympic cycle, which will be the last Olympic cycle with lightweight women. So that's kind of the rationale between why we're focusing on the quad versus like maybe doing the pair or trying to get into the double, or even the single. The single is a really hard boat to win internationally. So yeah, the goal right now, we have spring speed order coming up in the light single. Gonna do that for fun, hope to do well. And then eyes are on the lightweight women's quad trial in July.
Awesome. So what is your favorite and what is the hardest thing about high performance rowing?
Well, like specifically, rowing lightweight is really hard. But like that's like the hardest thing about all of this. But take that aside, I think the hardest thing with high performance is it's essentially a part to full-time job that you have to fit around an actual part or full-time job. Now, I'm in a situation right now while I'm in grad school where my family is helping me cover a lot of expenses, so I don't have to work. But that's like the biggest thing weighing on my mind is after this spring, once I graduate, from getting my master's, I'm going to have to find a job that allows me to train. Because I've seen a lot of people who are able to find some kind of balance, but when push comes to shove, you need to be able to pick rowing over any other commitment, at least. And that's what I found, especially if you're trying to make the Olympics. Granted, I haven't made the Olympics, so like maybe somebody's figured it out a different way, but that's my understanding. So I think that's the hardest thing. And then also, like, with this type of activity, like sport being, it's an all-in thing, so you get really high, and everybody in it cares so much about it, so you get these really, really high highs, like especially around racing if you do a really good race or if you have a really great training session. But then you can also get these really low lows where you're like, wow, I am spending all this time and money and effort into this sport, and I just had an awful practice, or I'm injured for a couple weeks. So um it's really awesome because you're like living. I think this is sort of like an example of how you can live life to the fullest, where you put so much effort and care into something, but that comes with getting really high highs, which are great, but then really low lows.
Wow.
Maybe that's just a me thing, but that's what I found, is that when you're putting 100% into something, hoping to get the top end, you're also gonna maybe experience the bottom every now and then. So
Yeah.
just hope it you get more of this than this. So
What is your advice for current college rowers, ACRA or otherwise, who are deciding whether or not to pursue high performance rowing post college?
um I'd say I guess the thing that I wish I had known is that, like, you're going to have a lot of people telling you, like, this is the right way to do this, like you need to go to this club and be around these people. um but there really isn't a singular right way to do it. I'd say in college, like especially when you have the summers to like go try out other clubs, go move to a different city, and like train in Philly, train in Boston, see where you like the vibe and you can get in the headspace
Mhm.
that you need to be in to train hard and to get fast. Because that's at the end of the day, the most important thing is, well, like your mental health, but boat speed,
Mhm.
boat speed, boat speed. And where
Mhm.
can you have the best like headspace and get the most boat speed? That's where
Mhm.
you should be. Um, if your goal is to win races, if your goal is to just row and have fun, then like go where your headspace is the best, and maybe your boat speed isn't where it could be. But I think I got really scared of thinking like I have to go to the best club for the summer, and if I move to Boston to be with this group, I have to be there for a year plus, where it's like this community is very transient, and once you're in it and can make connections, it becomes easier to move around and try different clubs and try different coaches. And um, from the outside, if it might not seem like you're in where people would assume you should be, like as a lightweight, people might say, oh, you should be in Boston because that's where like the largest grouping of lightweights is. But I found that I was getting better numbers, and I was going faster and more willing and better, more willing to train in Philly for this amount of time. So that's where I ended up. It doesn't have to make sense from the outside looking in, but where's your boat speed the fastest, and where are you in a headspace that makes you want to keep training? I'd say like those are the biggest things.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Sophia.
Sounds good. It's nice to meet you.
Yes. You too. All right. Have a good day.
Bye.